So hello everyone and welcome to TU Dublin Talks, episode 9. Joining me today is the lovely Lauren Duffy. Lauren is a sports management and coaching student. So before we move on, you have seen Daniel and Kelly on some episodes. So I'm Tiffany, I'm the other sports intern and I'll obviously be our host today. So Lauren, welcome and thanks for joining us on our episode today. How are you?
I'm all good, thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. How's isolation going for you? Or are you isolating?
Yeah, I'm isolating. I'm tipping on all my assignments and everything coming to an end of them all, so I'll probably be like so bored after I have everything done, but it's all you can do, you know.
How are the assignments going for you?
They're grand. I actually didn't get too many extra ones. I got one more written one and then the rest of them are just online exams, so it's not too bad, you know, that kind of way.
That's not too bad. Yeah, it eases the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Exam stuff, or is it just online assessments?
It's just online assessment, so I have 3 MCQs and then like an open book exam where I have 24 hours then to hand in my answer again, so it's grand.
Yeah, very good. Well, that's not too bad anyway. Like, at least you can get over and then relax the mind a little bit. You're on the home stretch now.
I know, yeah, nearly there.
But anyway, so for those who don't know Lauren, so as I said, she is a second year sports management and coaching student. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was convinced at the start you were a third year, and I was like, the years are running away with me. Anyway, yeah, so today Lauren is going to be talking about her time competing in karate and the effects that sport has had on our mental health and is continuing to have. So Lauren, if you'd like to briefly just give us a background on your sporting experience as a kid and growing up and where you kind of were with the karate and how you got into that.
Yeah, no problem. So basically I kind of started in sports when I was about 8. I was playing GAA just for my local club in Ashburn, and I only kind of started because all my friends were starting. So I remember coming in. Yeah, literally I came in to my mum and dad and I was like, I want to start playing football, and my dad was like, what? Because I'd never brought it up before ever. He was just like, okay. So off I went anyway, but it was just all the girls were on the team like I would have been hanging around with when I was like that age. So went up and then I ended up just falling into it, played that up until I was about 15 or 16 then.
Okay.
And my dad had done karate from when he was younger, so it was always kind of like he'd be going training and talking about it in the house and stuff like that, and like he used to have his own club and everything, but yeah, so he had it when I think it was years ago, but then just like work and everything and having kids, like he stopped, but it was always in the house and he was always teaching me little bits here and there.
Influencing you to do the movements, or you're I want to do that. Course.
Exactly, like literally from the time I was about 4, he had me punching and kicking up and down the kitchen, like. But so
wouldn't be messing with you, so
no. So I joined then when I went into transition year because I had to pick up an extra sport for doing Gashka, so I just picked that up, started that. When I started off, I didn't really have any interest in competing or like I was just kind of doing it for the sake of it. So then I kind of ended up really enjoying it, and it kind of came to 6th year and I was like, right, well, I'm not going to have time to do my football training and my karate training because I was training like 6 days a week then at that point, so I kind of had to just cut one out. So I was like, right, I'll just go with the karate and kind of see where it takes me. So then April of 2016, I think it was just before I did my leaving cert, I went and competed in my first international competition in karate.
Wow.
Came away with 2 silver medals, but then came home, did my leaving cert and everything, kind of went like, not like off the rails, but kind of went MIA from training over the summer because I finished the leaving and turned 18.
As you do.
Yeah, of course. So
you're like, I'm free, I'm stretching.
Yeah, literally, I was like, oh my god, I don't even have anything to worry about anymore. So I was just like, no.
I remember that.
So yeah, I was kind of like dipping in and out of training throughout that summer, but like it was grand. Then went back full time when I started in college in Maynooth, and then kind of just competed up until was it last year? Yeah, just competed up until last year then.
So you say you went to college in Maynooth, so sports management and coaching wasn't your first transition from school to go straight to college, no?
No. So
okay, what did you do in Maynooth?
So I finished my leaving cert. I studied so hard for my leaving cert, and then I sat all the exams and I came out with my maths exam going, oh my God, no, that didn't go well at all. But I sat higher level. So I was
Wow.
like, right. So I was like, right, like it might be okay, like I might just get the pass or whatever. But it's 30% for a pass now, but it was 40 obviously when I did it. So when I came out, I got my leaving cert results and I realised that like I failed maths and I was like, oh
No.
my God, what am I gonna do? So I think my first choice
Panic
was
set
sports.
in then.
100%, because my first choice was in DCUs because you needed to pass maths to get into it because it was sports science like.
Okay.
So I just had an absolute meltdown and I went home and I was like, I'm not going to college, and I was hysterical. And I kind of then just accepted, like I put down arts and minutes just to be there on my CAO, you know, that kind of way take up space. So I accepted it and then went, and I got to like October and I was like, why am I even here? I don't want to do this.
Right, okay.
So my mom and dad were like, no, you're sticking it out till Christmas, you're sitting your Christmas exams, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, whatever. I sat the exams and then dropped out after that. But it kind of worked out better for me in the long run because I went and did a PLC then in Closhida.
Oh, brilliant.
So I did personal training there. And then I went into Blanche from that.
Oh, so you kind of went the back route around it then after deciding, okay, minute wasn't for you, what you were doing there. So you went the back route into Blanchardstown then from Closh to Edith.
Yeah, exactly. So then I just reapplied to CAO that year and I got into Blanche that way. But it worked out so much better because I'm doing it like what I want to do now. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah,
I don't feel like it was a waste of time.
I think that's very important for a lot of people that will be watching this episode, because even people that are in like their third year of their course, they're sitting there and they're like, I hate this, but they're only doing it to either please their parents or their guardians, whoever, or they're just liking the idea of being in college, but they're not really engaging in what they're studying. So I think that's very important to be very real with yourself and say, right, okay, this isn't for me. There's no point in wasting your time. Money as well obviously comes into the mix of things, because some people aren't entitled to all these grants that are out there, and then their parents are left paying for stuff that they're not like really liking, or they're not really trying. So it is important. So it's kind of good that the penny dropped early on for you and you're in a better position than you would have thought you were, you know, that way. So that's brilliant. So when you got to Blanche then, were you still competing in karate?
Yeah, so during my PSE I went to my first World Championships, and then the following year I went to the Senior Europeans. So the Worlds were in Tenerife, but when I went to them I definitely wasn't good enough to be going. Like I just remember hearing about everybody getting picked, and like a few of my friends were on the team, and I had only been like, I would have gotten quite good quite early in doing the karate. Like I just kind of took to it. But then I got like so good so quickly, and then I kind of went through a phase of where like I felt like I wasn't improving. But it wasn't that, it was that I was actually just at a normal rate, you know what I mean? But just compared to everyone else around me, because they've been doing it since they were kids, I felt like
you're getting to go into championships like that. That's amazing. Very quick on in the sport. Like not a lot of people could do that. Like
yeah, but the only reason I got to go was because I literally went up to my coach and I was like, what do I have to do to go to the Worlds? And he just looked at me and was like, what?
You were and I was like, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, 100%. Like I was just like, I want to go. And he was like, all right, well, like, you know, he was like, do this many training sessions a week. You have to compete in like these two competitions, and I'll see, like, I'll let you know from there. And I was like, yeah, right, grand. And I like ate, slept, and breathed it for like 4 months. Yeah, I was just like constantly trying. At the end of every training session, I was like, so can I go? And he was like, I don't know yet. And then like I say, he was fit to kill me, like, but
yeah,
I ended up going anyways. And in hindsight, like I probably wasn't good enough to be going at the time, but it was probably the best thing I ever did as well, because I got a look at what the standard was like and where I wanted to be, and to see like were these big competitions exactly what I wanted to do. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah, that's very important that you get to see that aspect of it, because I'd be able to relate to you on like stuff like that. Like I did Irish dancing for years and I flew up through the grades, and then when you get to like championship level, you're like, how come I'm not placing first the way I used to every weekend or in every big competition? But you're up against the best, and you need to be at that standard, and you need to be realistic with yourself, with your training, with your eating as well, because it's important if you're an athlete, you're eating well, on how many times a week you're training, what training you're doing. So that's very important for you, you know, that way. So it's good that you got insight into that very early on. So what happened then from there on?
So after I came home from that, I kind of went, right, no, this is definitely for me. I definitely want to keep doing this. So I set out like a proper training plan, went and got everything sorted, like sorted out my nutrition, like started like going to the gym properly and stuff like that, incorporating like plyometric sessions, weight sessions, all stuff like that to like improve my training. So between then and say last year, I was training up to like 10 sessions a week, but I loved it. So it wasn't like I didn't enjoy doing it. I loved every single second of it. So I was doing all my training, going to between like 5 and 8 tournaments a year. Just loved it. Like loved traveling with the team, loved being with the team. And then it got to the end of 2018, and there was a big, huge like split in the governing body. So there was someone that was meant to be elected in as president, and then the old president didn't want to step down, kind of thing. So then it ended up splitting like a couple of the clubs and stuff like that as regards who they were voting for. But at this time, the older person that was in charge was still controlling entries and eligibility for competition and blah blah blah. So I was kind of getting like towards my peak of my under 21 career. So the Europeans that I would have been going to in the February in Denmark would have been my last under 21 Europeans. But I kind of knew all the girls that were in my category at that stage, like from all around Europe and stuff. And I was going, right now, like I have a really good chance of going and winning a medal at this. So I was training. And we just kept hearing like, no, you still haven't been entered. You still haven't been entered. You still haven't been entered. But I was kind of like, right, well, it's this side of Christmas. Like, it's not the new year yet. So I'll continue training and I'll just work really hard. And sure, if I get the last minute chance to go, I'll just go. So I was, it got to after Christmas, and then it got to the end of January. And it was, I think, like the third week in February or something was when the Europeans were, and it was just getting closer and closer, and every single day I was like, I'm not going to be able to go, I can't go. So I kind of just went,
being so disheartened for you, or just waiting around for answers. It's like, why can't I go?
Yeah, and I was going training then in the mindset of being like, why am I even doing this? Like, why am I going? Do you know that kind of way? So it was definitely taking a toll on my motivation and all. But then my coach just turned around to me one day and was like, look, you're not going to get to go. And I wasn't even that upset over it, because I kind of think I knew it in the back of my head the whole time that I wouldn't have been able to go. But I was just hoping, like I was just holding on to that little bit of hope, going, oh, I might be able to go. So then the week before the Europeans started is the deadline for your entries. And my entry got put in about half an hour before the deadline closed.
Okay.
But by that stage, like flights for like $3,000, like hotels were like crazy expensive. I wasn't getting funded or anything.
Okay. And would other athletes be getting funded to go to these World Championships?
Other athletes from other countries would get funded, but when you're in Ireland, you don't get funded unless you're going to a senior championship or a world championship. But even then, it's only your association. It's not the actual governing body that funds you.
Oh wow. Okay. Right.
So like all the competitions I would have went to, like I would have paid for myself and everything. Like I wouldn't have got funding or sponsorship or anything like that.
Wow. Oh my God, that's madness.
So I didn't get to go, and I remember being entered and going, is this a joke? Like,
and how did that make you feel though? Like, what they didn't really give you a straightforward answer, did they? Like, why weren't you allowed to go?
Because of who I was training with at the time, and because they supported the newer person that wanted to be involved in the governing body and everything, and they just went, no, we're not letting you go. But it wasn't just me. Like there was, I'd say there was
almost like a personal thing sort of to your coach at the time, like.
Yeah, no, 100%. And my coach kept telling me to leave. He was like, just go train with somebody else. And I was like, no, because then where do your standards lie, or your morals lie even? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, your loyalty to that coach, and that's
exactly. I was like, I've been training with you for like 4 or 5 years now. Like, I'm not going to just leave because somebody doesn't like you.
Yeah, that's madness. I think that's an awful position for you, especially to be put in, because obviously your coach is like, no, you go, like, go do what you been training to do, what you've been
Yeah,
working so hard towards, but then to be told no, you can't go because obviously politics in every sport there is,
yeah,
but to be so extreme like that must have been devastating for you, because you're like, I want to stay with this coach because this is who got me to where I am, will helped me get there. That
yeah.
must have been awful for you, Lauren. I can't imagine how that made you feel. Like,
It was like, it was hard, but I think I just continued training after that incident as if nothing
okay,
was going on.
right,
So I just kind of, but I think I was doing that to cope, like, if that makes sense, because I just didn't even want to think about it.
okay,
So I just kept training, and my coach was like, right, we can go to this like Premier League competition. I can enter you. Nobody can try and pull you out of it. Like, just continue training, and then kind of like, this will be your next goal. So it was only a couple of weeks later. So I was like, yeah, no, perfect. So we all were like trying, like getting this everything sorted, sorting out all our entries and everything. And I remember being in work and getting a call off this woman being like, hi, my name's whatever, I just need to talk to you about something. And I said, oh yeah, okay. She was like, I'm from Cratty Ireland, like the
wow,
NGB. And I was like, oh right, okay. So my heart kind of dropped. I was like, what's she ringing me about? She said, look, I've been told to get your details to contact you to tell you that you're not going to be allowed competing this tournament now next week. And I was like, what? But it was just so out of the blue that I didn't even think about, like, well, my coach entered me, so you can't pull me out of it, and I've already paid for everything, and I know I'm entered and registered, or like all that just left my head. I was just there going, what are you talking about? So she kind of said all this to me, and she was like, look, I don't want to give you this news. I don't even want to be involved in this. I'm just a secretary, so I know that, like, this is just my job, but I'm so sorry. And she was so lovely and everything. And I was like, no, it's fine, it's fine. And she said, look, I just need to forward you the email just so you have a copy of it, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, no, it's grand. But this was in the middle of a shift in work, like, and I worked in a restaurant, so I was literally sobbing out the back going, oh my God, I can't believe this. So I opened the email and it basically said, dear Lauren, we found it very difficult to contact you, blah, blah, blah. We just want to inform you that you're not eligible to compete in the Premier League competition in Austria next week. We've pulled you out your registration, blah blah blah. You're not affiliated with the right people, so we won't be letting you go. And I hit the roof. I was like, are you messing? So,
and what in that moment, were you not angry? Were you more sad? Were you angry? Were you like, what is going on?
I was so confused and so upset because it felt like such a personal thing, I think.
Yeah.
I was like, they don't care how many like competitions I've won or how many times I've competed or how hard I've trained. Like,
Yeah.
they don't know. And the thing that was getting me was the people at the top of the organization didn't really know me. They'd only met me at one competition before. So I was like, you don't know me. Like, you don't know how hard I've worked
You don't know
for
what I can
this.
do, basically, yeah.
Yeah, and I was so upset, and I just remember like texting my mom and dad and being like, I can't go to the competition next week, and they were like, what are you talking about? And I couldn't even reply to them because I was in work. So I just kind of had to like pull myself together, get through the shift. Everyone left the restaurant, and I was like, and my manager was like, no, go home, like, don't even bother staying for clean up, like, just literally go straight home. And I said, right, grand. And I went home and sat on the couch with my mum and dad, and I cried for hours. I was like, what am I going to do? And my mum was like, we're going down to that karate club tomorrow, and you were asking your coach what was going on.
Yeah, you
And I
must have
remember
had a million questions in your head.
I just didn't even know where I stood, because at the time I was still being told I could go by my coach, but then these other people were telling me that I couldn't go. And it was only, I think this was literally about 8 or 9 days before we flew out for the competition. Like, so I was just kind of like, I don't even know where my head's at. So
Yeah.
I went down training the next night, and I just said, like, look, I actually can't do this session. I was like, my head's fried. And he was like, yeah, why, what's wrong? And I said, did you not hear about that email we got? And he was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, so your coach was not informed?
No. Like, he said to me, oh, like, I'm sure they'll try to do something, but he hadn't been told officially that I'd been sent an email or anything like that. So I told him everything, like, and he was like, no, you can go to that competition. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't even know if I want to go.
Yeah, of course your head would have been in a bad headspace, but it's so unprofessional. The fact that an athlete is doing all this training, investing all this time and money and energy
Yeah.
into doing something, and then the coach is saying, no, you can go, you are going, and then the national governing body is like, no, you're not going because you're not affiliated with the right people. That's mind blowing. So, like, where was your head at with these? Did you ask more questions, or did you just like say, do you know what, I've had enough?
I got to the point where I was just like, I was so upset, but I was so upset for myself because I knew how hard I'd worked. I didn't even know who to be angry at or what to be angry for, or I just didn't know what to be doing with myself. I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know. And my coach was like, look, if you're not even going to compete, just at least come with us to the competition because you've paid for your flights, you've paid for your accommodation. He was like, just please don't pull out now because I know you're panicking, like you're in panic mode. And I said, yeah, no, I definitely am. And he said, look, don't train tonight. Go home, rest. I'll ring you tomorrow and we'll see where your head's at. And I said, right, grand. So I went home, slept on it. And then the next day I said, no, do you know what? I'm going. I was like, I can't if I let people push me around my whole life, like, what have I got to show for it? So I said,
that's no.
no.
That's a good way of looking at it, Lauren. But for me, what I'd be sitting here and wondering now is, did your coach get answers for you? Because surely you're entitled to those answers if he's not being informed that you basically can't compete.
Yeah, you know? So he went off and kind of was like, what's the story here? Like, you can't pull them out of this competition, blah, blah, blah. But he was kind of being fed the same stuff. But then he went and rang, like, I don't know, the Austrian Karate Federation or whatever, like whoever was organising this Premier League competition, and basically said, look, I've entered the people from my club. As far as I'm aware, you do not have to be entered by your governing body, and have never had to be entered by your governing body for these type of tournaments because they're not worlds or Europeans.
Yeah.
So will my athletes be eligible to compete? And they were like, yeah, 100%. So this was just, it was kind of just like throwing something out there to see if it worked, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So then we flew over and everything, but there were athletes that were affiliated with like the right people, and then there was us at this competition. Okay. So when we went, got flight, went, checked into the hotel and everything, and then we had to go down to collect like our passes so we could get in and out of the arena. So we went down to collect the passes, and we were kind of all like standing there going, will they let our coach get the passes? Or
that must have been horrible though.
It was just, I felt like I was treading on eggshells the whole weekend. Yeah. You know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So we went up, and I was like, I'll go up with you. So me and my coach are standing there, and I'm looking at him and he's looking at me, and I'm going, you don't know if you're getting these passes, do you? And he was like, no.
Wow.
He was like, because I don't know if they've like said it, like the other like governing body has said it to these about us. Do you know, that kind of way? So we were kind of just, it was just like playing it by ear. I was like, I went over with literally all my bags packed and everything going, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fight this weekend.
That's crazy. But that must be horrible for you because your mind's so focused on the competition, and then it's like, oh wait, I actually don't know if I'm going to be able to compete. So it's like,
exactly,
where do you sit comfortable? Where does your mind rest? It obviously doesn't.
When you're coming up to them type of competitions, like in anything, like if you're doing it in Irish dancing, if I'm doing it in karate, if somebody else is doing like a football final, you don't need that external worry. Do you know, that kind of way? Like all you need to do is worry about your own performance and what you can control. And this was something that was totally out of my control.
Yeah.
So exactly. I just genuinely couldn't. Yeah. Like it was kind of like when I went over, I knew it was out of my control, but I got to the point of going, well, look, there's really nothing I can do about it other than show up. So I kind of went over with that attitude going, look, I just need to go and see what happens. So we went up, and it was like we were nearly like bluffing our way through it going, oh yeah, no, we're here with this association. Even though it was all true, I felt like I was lying.
Yeah.
Do you know, that kind of way? So we ended up getting everything sorted, weighed in, all that stuff. Everything was kind of fine then. We kind of saw the other athletes and stuff, but it was real kind of like, oh, they're here with that association and we're here with this association. Like it was real like tense kind of. So it came to the day that I had to compete, and I just, like, the only way I can describe it is that like I just totally bottled it on the day. But it was because my head was everywhere else other than where it should have been. Like I was thinking, Jesus, like what if I lose this, and then they're right and I shouldn't have come to this competition, and then okay, well, if I do this competition maybe I'll get to go to like the next Europeans or the next Worlds, but what if I can't do that? And like it was, my mind was just going and going and going, and my coach even said to me afterwards, he was like, I knew your head wasn't in that from the minute you went out there. And every single one of my teammates said that was genuine. They were like, we're not being bad. They said this to me a few weeks later. They were like, it's the worst I've ever seen you perform. You just didn't look happy. And I loved fighting, I loved competing, I loved training, and I was always at my happiest when I was doing it. And I was standing there on the mats like crying, going, I don't even want to be here. Like
So you did get to compete then. After all that commotion that had happened,
I did.
Your head was probably elsewhere by then.
Exactly, but by the time that was all sorted and everything, I was going, like, I had lost before I even went out, you know, that kind of way. And at the time, I didn't want to admit that. I was like, oh no, the girl I thought was really good, blah blah blah, but she wasn't. Like if I think back on it, I'm like, I could have beaten you, no problem. But it was just my head was
fully in it.
It just was everywhere else, but like where it needed to be in the fight. So
it's like, speaking on that with you, like I kind of, as you were talking about that, I'm sitting here visualizing myself when I was dancing, and I'm like thinking of like the nerves that I had that day and how I like tried to get myself in the zone. When you're getting up on that stage, all eyes are on you, all lights are on you, and you're going out to perform your piece, you're going out there to impress whoever's sitting in front of you judging you. And it's kind of like, I could not imagine having to think of the stress that you had to think of on top of that. Whereas that would have completely got me, and I wouldn't have even stepped out on the floor. So hats off to you for actually getting out there and doing that, because that just shows how strong your mind is, where it's kind of like there is those little voices battling in your head saying, oh God, Lauren, this isn't going to be a good fight, but you're like, well sure, here I am now, so let's go for it. Whereas like, and not a lot of people, and including myself, would be able to stand there. My head would be just gone completely. So fair play to you for doing that. So after that had happened, you had came home, and did you continue doing karate? Did this commotion continue afterwards in the background? So where did that leave you?
That kind of competition didn't really make any difference in the grand scheme of things. Like we went and we competed, but I remember literally coming off the mats, going, packing my bag, going straight back to the hotel and lying in bed for like literally about 13 hours. Like I didn't move. And everyone kind of kept coming into me and being like, oh, like, we're going to do this, do you want to come, or we're going for dinner, or we're going for a walk? And I was just sitting there going, no, I don't want to. And I rang my mum, like bawling my eyes out, going, I need to book a flight home, I can't be here. And she was like, no, you have to say, like, the girls are fighting tomorrow, blah blah blah. And I was like, no ma'am, I can't be here. It's not even I don't want to be here, it's I physically can't be here. Like I felt so sick, I was so anxious. I remember like texting my friend afterwards and just being like, what is this sport actually giving me? Why do I invest myself in it so much? And it was when I got to that point of going, why am I doing this? I was like, I never thought I'd get here, because it was something that I loved so much. So I came home.
Was slowly going because of all that stress people were giving you, and you had no control over what they did. So that's so frustrating when you don't have that sort of control.
Exactly. Like if I had to just stop liking it because I stopped liking it, it would have been fine. But it was nearly like that the decision to continue loving my sport was taken away from me, kind of. In this sense. So that was probably the most frustrating part. But I came home and I was like dipping in and out of training and stuff, and kind of going some days and not going the other days. And like my coach kind of knew, like, it was a long time coming. In the sense that this competition happened in March and I didn't officially leave until nearly June.
Okay.
So
you were in and out of training between that time frame, are you saying?
Yeah. Right. So like some days I go down and do a full week's training, and other days I go down and do one. Or some days I go down and be like, oh my God, love this again. And then other days I go, why am I here? Like,
So
what am I training
what
for?
gave you that initial thought in your head where you're like, "Do you know what, that's it, I'm done"? Like, when did that thought come into your head?
So I would have suffered quite badly from performance anxiety before all my fights and before all my competitions and stuff. And then it kind of went into everyday life where my sport was affecting my happiness in my everyday life and my ability to kind of just be myself. And it was kind of, even around my exams in college, like I was just kind of going in and like not really talking to anybody. I didn't want to be around anyone. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I was coming home and then I'd go training and I'd come out of training and cry my eyes out. And my dad would be like, "Why are you so upset?" And I'd be like, "I just hate it. Like, I just can't stand being there because it reminds me of everything that I should have achieved and that I haven't been allowed to achieve." So my dad said to me just at one point, just turned around and went, is it worth it? Like, and I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Is all this, like everything that's going on, like the stress it's causing you, how anxious you are, how unhappy you are, is it worth it?" And my mom said it to me as well. She just goes, "Lauren, like, you're a different person." She was like, "You're
Yes,
not."
and your parents can tell, especially because they see what you've gone through, and they're just kind of like, "Well, we don't want our daughter to keep being put in that position where she's coming and going in the sport when you're ready to dedicate your time and you're ready to give your all,
Yeah.
but you have barriers in the way that you can't remove them yourself. Obviously, it's out your control, but so
Yeah.
that must have been really, really hard. But you mentioned there about having performance anxiety, and that's something that a lot of athletes have that you wouldn't even realise. I would have kind of suffered, I would have said, with that near the end of my time at dancing. And I
Yeah.
think that's what took over for me. But it's very interesting that you say that, because when I speak to you, I'm like, "Oh, she's a lovely, confident person." How did you, I suppose, mask that performance anxiety, or how did you deal with it?
So I literally had it from the minute I started karate, but it was just because I had went from playing a team sport to an individual
Yeah.
sport. That's kind of what I put it down to. It was kind of like, oh well, if this goes wrong, it's actually all my fault. Like, I can't blame other people.
Okay, yeah.
That
Yeah,
kind of
fair.
thing. I was going, oh well, it's just you out there. Like, you know yourself. Like, if you're dancing and you mess up a step, you can't blame it on anybody else.
Yeah.
It's
All
you.
you.
So if I'm out there and I get booted in the head, it's my own fault. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
so it was that kind of, it was the fear of losing kind of that put it in my mind. And it was so bad for so long. Like, I'd be in the bathroom crying before a competition, getting sick and everything, and I'd literally have to be pulled out and being like, "Get on the mat."
So you were physically vomiting and stuff that
Yeah.
bad? Oh, Lauren, oh my God.
Oh, it was like, it was horrible. So they were just like, "Get out on the mat," like, and
The
I just go out.
adrenaline probably kicked in each time for you, so you were probably running more so off adrenaline than you were being in a clear headspace.
Oh no, 100%. Like, I just go out and do it, and it didn't matter win, lose or draw. I'd come off the mats and just cry, just
Oh,
because I was so stressed, you know, that kind of way. And it was just kind of like releasing all that from my body.
okay.
And everyone was probably like, "She's a nut," like.
Yeah.
So, but I just like, and then people kind of copped it. They were like, "Oh my God," because before they'd be talking to me and like, "Oh yeah, like grand, I'll be talking to you like I am now, like I'd be so normal." And then about half an hour before my mat, like I was scheduled to be on the mat, like I'd turn into a completely different person. Wouldn't talk to
Okay.
anybody. I'd go so introverted. I'd warm up, but I'd have to do it with my earphones in.
Yeah.
Couldn't have anyone talking to me. Um, and it was just kind of like, I just learned to manage. So then I went to a sports psychologist and we did loads of work on like imagery, visualization, like goal setting and stuff like that. And I kind of just built myself up from there.
Yeah.
But it was always kind of like a part of like my fighting and how I performed and stuff like that. It was just kind of like, I just kind of accepted that it would always be a part of kind of who I was. But um, then it went into like me just having like literally anxiety in like everyday life and going and being like, I can't even talk to anybody. Like, they're talking about me, and then they're thinking that I'm a bad person. Or it kind of came down to nearly not being able to separate myself as an athlete from myself as a person. Do you know, that kind of way?
Yeah.
So if I,
See, it's funny that you mentioned the whole visualization thing and how the performance anxiety led into your everyday life. So first of all, did the visualization stuff like work for you, or did you think it was just a method for you to try?
it works for me in a training sense. So if I was struggling with understanding how to move my feet or how to perform a certain move or whatever, I'd literally just I'd have to just sit out and just think about how I was going to do it, what I was going to look like when I was doing it. I have to think about it working and say like me scoring with a certain technique or being able to move a certain way, and all had to be like really, really positive. So then I would go out and it would end up working. So then it kind of got to the stage of, right, you can't just visualize yourself winning a tournament. You have to visualize like the rounds. So you're thinking like, right, I'm going to use this technique, I'm going to use this technique, I'm going to use this technique. And then the end goal would be you kind of like visualizing yourself in the podium and stuff like that. And people do like read like law of attraction or whatever and just kind of go, right, well, if I just think about like being a millionaire, I'll just become a millionaire. But it's not like I know, like
the whole time thinking about it.
If it worked like that, nobody would be doing anything. But like it's kind of, there's loads of stuff to it that I found really beneficial, not necessarily in the results that I got, but just in my own training and my own experience in competition. Like, do you know that kind of way?
Yeah, and I'd agree with you with the whole visualization. It's funny that you said, I feel like we've a lot in common when it comes to the sport side of things. I would have done that, I suppose, as I got older through dancing and I got into tougher grades. I would have actually done that before big competitions. Now, I wouldn't have done it if it was like, so you visualize how you're gonna like move on the floor and stuff like that. Whereas for me, it was only before big competitions that I'd lay down and visualize myself on the stage. And so obviously with dancing you have certain steps and certain rhythms, and like I visualize how I would do that, like where my hands are, how my posture is, how my feet and my hips turned out and everything. So that worked for me. And as you said, it was funny that you said like then you visualize yourself on the podium. So it's kind of like once you're finished your routine, the end goal is, oh yeah, I'm actually on the podium. So I suppose for me that made me feel like, oh, that was a success. So like I'm standing up there, and you know what, I've gotten through the routine and I've actually made it to the podium. So I like the way you kind of described that and how you thought about the movement side of things. Is really, really good. Obviously I don't want to go off the topic of this sport and anxiety, but I do want to dip into something that I admire you for. So you posted on your Instagram, a mental health video, and you spoke about your experience and how you battled with it, and just what you mentioned about the whole sport anxiety thing and how it affected your everyday life. It kind of shows how that you being in karate and going through all that, what you did, the uncertainty of everything, I suppose, how that would have affected your everyday life. You spoke a lot in the video about like about how the karate had that effect on you, but you also mentioned stuff like that you were in a really, really bad headspace. You would have had certain thoughts, you would have spoke to different people, like professional help wise. So I'd like to dip into that a little bit more, because it's something that not a lot of people are okay and are not very open about, and that's okay if people aren't, because it's a tough thing, because you're reliving the pain in your head and you're reliving that person that you were and that experience that you had. So I just think hats off to you, Lauren, because I sat and watched the video and you just spoke so well about you described the pain that you felt. And for anybody who's listening or watching this can relate to you in some shape or form if they've gone through a bad time or if they have struggled with mental health. So I suppose if you could just kind of give us an overall view of obviously that transition from your sport into your everyday life, how you coped with that, what did it affect in your life? Did it affect your relationships, friendships, relationships with your parents? So
So I would have dedicated so much of my time to my sport, and then I became so engrossed in it that I just was my sport, and all I was that athlete. I wasn't anyone else outside of it. And then when I left it, it left like such a big, it was like just a hole in my life, like, because I had so much time that it would have taken up, like. So, but I just knew I wasn't ready to go straight into anything else yet. So I was just kind of like, when I left that, and when I came home from that competition in Austria, I was probably like the lowest I've ever been in my life, and I was so upset, and it was like I just didn't want to get out of bed in the morning and stuff like that, and I had no motivation to do it. And I was really like not engaging in college. I was going into work in a bad humor all the time. Like there was just nothing that could make me happy at all, and I just felt so like worthless nearly, because I wasn't an athlete and I wasn't competing at international level and blah blah blah. And it was kind of like, because that had nearly became who I was. Like if I was ever out on a night out or anything and I bumped into somebody that I hadn't seen in a few years, the first thing that they'd say to me was like, oh my god, like how's the karate going, like you're doing so well, blah blah blah, whatever. And it was kind of not that like I was known for or whatever, but it just became something that I was so associated with.
Yeah, of course.
And it was just such a huge part of who I was. And then it was all just taken away from me, like, but it was kind of, I lost like who I was in it. So I was so upset, and the way I described it in my video was like I was grieving the loss of somebody, but the loss of somebody was myself. Like I was grieving the loss
as well. Yeah.
It was just, I just didn't know who I was. Like I was so upset because I wasn't the version of myself that I was a few months before everything had kicked off, when I like loved my sport, I loved going training, I loved my friends, all my friends like in training and stuff like that. And I know it wasn't just me that it affected, because a good few people that I would have trained with and I would have came up through the ranks with have left since I left. I was kind of one of the first ones to go, but a couple of them have left, and it was just, I was in a space going, why am I here? Like, what's my purpose? Like, I was an athlete, and this was meant to be what I did, and it was meant to be who I was. And like, sure, I only came to college to do sports because I was an athlete, and now I'm not an athlete anymore. But I still would think that I'm associated to it in some point. Like I didn't fail, like, but it was just so hard to see that at the time, and I was just so upset. So it got to the point where it continued all the way through the summer up until maybe just before Christmas. And I turned around to one of the lecturers in the college and just said, can I talk to you about something? And they were like, yeah, no problem. And I just went, I'm just not okay. And they were like, what do you mean? I just started crying. I was like, I haven't said that to anybody. My mom and dad kind of knew I wasn't okay, but I kind of I felt like just telling them I was fine, just because I didn't want to worry them, do you know, that kind of way. But I just got to a point and I just said, I'm not okay. And I basically told them everything that was going on and how I was feeling. And they were like, I really, 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 really need you to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And they were like, just go once. If you don't like it, you don't have to go back, but go and see what you think of it. So I said, right, grand. So I made an appointment with the counsellor in college. And I went in and I talked to her. But the first appointment that I went in and I kind of sat there, like, I just sat real far back in my chair and everything. And I was like, she's judging me.
Right.
That's all I could think of. Like, but it's because before, when I had gone to counselling and professional help and all that, I had such a bad experience with it. So I was kind of going in that mindset of going, oh, well, sure, they'll all be the same, blah, blah, blah. But
of course.
It helped me so much, because she said to me, oh, I've been through something similar to what you've been through, in the sense that I've lost like a love in my life, like in a hobby, and I hated not being able to participate in it, blah blah blah, whatever. So I kind of went, oh my god, no, she understands. So we went through it, and then she said to me that I was suffering from PTSD. So I joined SBG in Charlestown then, say in the August, and I'd be going training, and I'd go training and I wouldn't get something right, and I'd go, I don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And then I'd leave, and then I'd go back up and be like, right now, I need to just get over this. And I'd go in and something would go wrong, or I'd get put in a position where I just wasn't comfortable. And I just cracked, like, and I just was so anxious all the time. And one of the girls that I trained with, like, had followed me on Instagram and stuff for like a couple of months previous. So she kind of knew everything that had been going on. So she was like a huge part of me continuing my training and stuff like that. But it was such a horrible feeling. It was like I was just overwhelmed with emotion of going, I don't belong here, I shouldn't be here. And like I wouldn't even do a striking class. Like I wouldn't go and do a boxing class. I wouldn't go and do a Thai boxing class because it just made me think of karate. So I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah, of course.
So I was just doing the jiu-jitsu and stuff like that for a couple of months, and then I started going to the counsellor. She basically said to me, you're suffering with PTSD, so that's like post-traumatic stress disorder. She was like, every time you go up to that gym and you think about training and something negative happens, your mind is conditioned to go back to everything negative that happened to you while you were going through like all that in karate and all. And I was there going, but sure, PTSD is what people in World War II went through. Like, sure, I don't have that. And she was like,
yeah, but
you do. Like, and I was there going, I was like, you're mad. And she was like, no, I'm not lying to you. And I was going, oh my God. I remember coming home to my mum and dad going, I have PTSD. My mom was like, you don't have it. Like, it's not like a cold.
Yeah,
she was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
She was like, relax. Like, and I was there going,
it's understandable though, Lauren, that you would suffer in that sense, but like the fact that you've gone through all that and then you've transitioned into a new sport, which is amazing. The fact that you even went back to sport says a lot about you, the strength that you have as a person, regardless of you labeling yourself then just as the athlete. You are Lauren Duffy at the end of the day, and like your strength obviously has come true in that sense. So like ease up on yourself a little bit, you know. And like with you going, so SBG, is that where you've gone in Charlestown? So how did you find transitioning into like a new sport? Obviously you had that fear and you still probably have those little bit of insecurities, but if I was to ask you to date, obviously I know with the whole situation going on, you haven't been training up at your club, but how is that being in a new setting, in a new club with a new coach, which Owen Roddy? That must be amazing to train with him.
Yeah, so I went in for my consultation, so they kind of just bring you in, show you around the gym, like tell you what's on the timetable, stuff like that. So Owen did my consultation and I was just kind of chatting to him, and he was like, have you done any like fighting around before? And I was like, I did a bit or whatever. And he was like, oh no, what did you do? And I said, oh, I did karate. And he was like, what level did you do it to? And I was like, oh yeah, no, like I did it to a high enough level, but like I'm not here as that person anymore. Like I'm here as a beginner to learn or whatever. And he was kind of just like, go on, tell me, like, what did you do? And also I was like, right. So I told him like I'd gone to Worlds and stuff like that, and basically filled him in on the whole situation. And I was like, but I don't want anybody to know that's here, because I don't want them thinking I'm coming in here with a big ego going like, oh, I did karate before and all, and then get my arse handed to me and look like a tick. So I was like, I can't, like, if that happened I probably just wouldn't have went back.
I'm sure that wasn't going to be the case for you, Lauren, anyway.
So I was like, look, I'm just here just to try something new. I don't really know what I want out of it. And he just said, right, well, look, so you've this much experience or whatever, but you don't have any like jiu-jitsu or wrestling around, do you? And I said no. And he said, right, we'll do the beginners class and then you can do whatever striking classes you want. So if you want to come up and do the boxing class, or do the Thai boxing class, or if you just want to do the beginner striking, like you can do that either. So we just left it there. He was like, look, it's open to you, like whatever, pay me membership. That was grand. So I kind of went in, and I remember just standing there on the mat one day, and a fella I knew, like that I knew from Instagram from being a fighter, and he knew me from being a fighter, walked in, and it was just like eye contact, and we both just like maintained eye contact the whole time he walked across the mat and the whole time he walked back across the mat. He was like, it was definitely like, I know her. And I was like, oh shite, I know him. I was just like, but I kind of really didn't even want to be seen there. Like it was just like I wanted to be there and be invisible and just do my training and nobody know who I was or what had happened or what was in the past or anything. Like,
so was there been many girls up there too, or were you kind of like the only one?
No, so it's just me and Sarah. Me and Sarah are kind of closest in age. Sarah's 18, so me and her. Then there's a couple of older girls. So one of them's 25, the other one's 31. Okay. There's probably about 7 of us.
That's a nice number, like, because obviously with the likes of any sort, even boxing, I know when I did it years ago, I was kind of like 1 or 2 girls, and that including me, like, so it was very hard to always get like someone to match your weight or to match your kind of style, even, you know, just for sparring partners and stuff. So that's good. Like, I like to hear that, because like combat sport isn't just for men, and like obviously it is male dominant, let's be honest, it is. But even with the boxing just alone, I see so many more people, girls in different clubs, and I'm like, wow, I wish when I was 16 that there was this many girls, because maybe I would have stuck it out, and maybe I would have stayed here, you know. And it was hard. It is disheartening, but it is amazing to see that, and I'm glad times have changed. So the fact that you took that upon yourself to go up here, this is a new place. This is like a new beginning. So I suppose the question that I want to know is, has this been going well for you?
It has, like, in the sense that I enjoyed my training so much more, and I kind of realised that I was enjoying this training just because I wanted to enjoy training, and I wasn't thinking about competing. And it was a bit weird at the start, kind of doing all that training and not having any goals or outcomes or anything to aim for. Kind of.
Used to,
Yeah, and then everyone would say to me, "Oh, you have to compete. You have to fight. You have to fight." Like, and I'm going, "Yeah, but I don't want to." And I felt like I was literally talking to a wall, because everyone's saying the same thing, and I'm going, "Is anybody listening to me?" Like, I don't want to. Like, I know myself, I'm not ready to compete, and I don't know if I ever will do it.
Do it on your own time. Don't let anybody pressure you. You'll know yourself.
Yeah. And I'm kind of like, oh, will I ever be ready to compete again? I don't know. I'm just gonna have to see where the road takes me. Like, I'm not rushing into anything, and obviously at the minute, like in all the circumstances, like there's no point in even thinking like that. All I can do is try to continue training at home and stuff like that and do what I can. But like, I've no major goals set in place at the minute, but I just know that I'm in a place that I hadn't been in a very long time, in the sense that I'm happy with my life, I'm happy with my training, and I'm happy with who I am. And I went through so many months of not being in that stage. So to kind of finally be here and be out the other side of it, like, I do just say to people, like, look, I was going through it and going, it was just like, people literally said to me, they were like, are you ever going to catch a break? And I was like, no. It was just one thing after the other, after the other, after the other, and it was just never ending. And I was just there going, will this ever get better? Like, what's the point, basically?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then to be out the other side of it, and to know myself, like, I've been through all that, and I'm still here, and I'm still in one piece. Like, do you know, that kind of way? Like, it's so important for people to know that you literally can get through everything. And I think that, like, so many people don't realize how much mental toughness they have, in a sense. Like, I think everyone, like, quits so easily, and your mind definitely gives up before your body does. But, like, if you can, like, tap into whatever that is, I don't know what to call it, but if you can tap into it and realize that, like, you're conditioned to do so much more and be through so much more than you're going through, like, literally you can get through anything. Like, do you know what
exactly? And even the fact, Lauren, that, like, you sit there and you say, like, I'm happy with my training, I'm happy with me. Like, you're a happier person than you were when you look back to where you were mentally and where you were with the sport that you were in at the time. So, like, that's amazing, because in terms of, I feel like your story is so relatable to people in certain ways. Like, I'm even sitting here and I'm like, yeah, do you know what, like, that's so relatable to me, like, too. Like, even the fact that, like, I am so blessed I never had that traumatic experience that you had, and I just fell out of love with competing, because I did it for years. Like, I did dancing for 12 years, and I just got to a stage where I think as I'm getting older, I'm kind of thinking more about my life. And I'm just at a stage where I'm like, okay, I'm not loving competing anymore. I love Irish dancing, and that'll always be love in my blood for that. But I'm just not loving the competing side of things. Like, so for me, I was like, do you know what, when I hang up the dancing shoes, I'm going to join the football. Who do I think I am? But anyway, now I'm playing for a soccer team, so I'm just like, and I like it because it gives me that comfort back and that happiness where I'm like, I love being surrounded by the girls, having the laugh, but I love when the competition comes into it, and, like, you know, like, it gets all serious, and then, like, you're wrecked by the end of it. So I still have that element of what I had in dancing, and it's always nice to be surrounded by that. But I know what you do as an individual sport, you're training with other people that are like-minded, you know, that way. And then for you to have that mentality to be like, do you know what, I actually came out the other side of this. It's just, I sit here and it's like, that's amazing. Like, and I think you are too hard on yourself. You're way too hard on yourself. Yeah, what you've achieved in a short amount of time, even with the karate, is amazing. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like, politics will always be there, and that it's in any sport. And I've experienced that myself, and you can see it yourself with other people that are competing, but that's just tough luck, and that's the control out of your hands when you're doing all you can. So I'm so happy to hear that you're in a better headspace mentally, and you're in a better place with your sport. And even if it's a thing, because I think most people get hung up on the fact that, like, oh yeah, if I'm doing like mixed martial arts, or if I'm going up here training, I have to be competing. You don't. If you choose to never compete again, that's absolutely fine. You're going up there because, number one, you enjoy it, and number two, you found love for something again. And yeah, I feel like you're overcoming your fear and your insecurities with sports very slowly, but do it at your own pace. People are always going to, if they see you do something good, they're going to be like, whoa, this girl means business. And I'm sure you're very talented and skilled in that sense. I wouldn't want to be messing with you anyway. But it's kind of like they're always going to want you to represent them. At the end of the day, they are like a company. They are like a team. They want people that they think, oh, she can definitely represent us. But as I said, go at your own pace, and fair play to you. And I'm so happy that you're in that better headspace and that better position. For me, like, I like to go online and I like to look at positive stuff, because obviously with everything going on, there is a lot of negative stuff, and I like to kind of look at the better news about obviously the current situation. But I also enjoy looking at people that are so confident in themselves and in who they are, the way they are. And that's one thing that caught my eye about you, which I admire, because a lot of girls, so for me, I think you're very body positive, and I love that. And that's something that you don't see a lot. For me, you're so confident in your own skin. And obviously, I didn't know all this was going on behind closed doors, and everyone has their struggles here and there.
Yeah.
But I think that just one thing I wanted to highlight, that I admire that you're very body positive, and I love the fact that you embrace that on social media, because a lot of people may turn their nose up to it, or roll their eyes and be like, oh, whatever. But that's fine that people judge and stuff. But I would just like to ask you, what advice can you give to somebody, whether it's being confident in yourself mentally, but the way you're so body positive as well? Like, what advice would you give to girls? Because you know yourself, not a lot of girls are, and they're like, I don't have the ideal body for Instagram. But like, what is that ideal body? Like, if it annoys me so much, because there's no ideal anything out there. There's no ideal mindset, there's no ideal body, there's no ideal anything. So I just suppose, like, what advice from all your trauma and all your struggles would you give to, I suppose, the women out there that kind of need it, and the men, but you know yourself.
So, like, when I went through all being stressed and everything, and all this anxiety and everything was consuming me, I was like, I'll openly say, like, I used to just make myself get sick to kind of just expel all this from my body. And I was like, I have no other outlet for this other than just making myself get sick. And it wasn't anything to do with how I thought about my body. It wasn't anything to do with my appearance or whatever. It was literally just because I was so stressed. So I'd never, ever, ever, ever classify it as an eating disorder at all.
Okay, that's fine.
But I think that, like, the people like Rosanna Purcell, and I know there's a couple of American girls out there, and they're coming out and they're saying, like, I've had an eating disorder, but I've come out the other side of it. And I think it's just important to remember that if you have a body and it enables you to walk around every day, and it enables you to go and train and see your friends, and you're able to go out on the weekend and enjoy yourself, like, your body is perfect, you know what I mean? Like, and if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, and you're constantly comparing yourself and going, oh jeez, I wish I looked like her, I wish I had her hair, I wish I had her legs, she's gorgeous, blah blah blah, like, you're never going to be happy, because you're wishing for things that are external. Where if you look inside yourself and go, okay, well, oh Jesus, I wish I was happier, you can do things to make yourself happier. Or, okay, like, don't think, oh, I want to lose weight. Think, right, I want to be really strong and healthy. And, like, you will lose weight doing that, you know, that kind of way. Exactly. But if you do, like, I feel like people start off in trying to transform themselves for the wrong reasons, and then along the road they will find the right reasons. In the sense that I kind of like, when I started doing karate, I wanted to do it to lose weight. Like, I used to be like a size 16 or something.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, I was like I was fat. So and I look back and I'm like, oh my god, who ate all food? I did. But so then I lost all the weight, but I wasn't any happier because I was
Yeah.
so focused on the external goal. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
you can be as heavy as you like or as light as you like. That
Yeah,
doesn't determine
exactly.
your happiness at all. Like you realize your happiness, and I think once you realize you're happy with who you are and you know what your morals are, and I'm real like I'm gonna do me and I don't care what other people think of me. I know other people look at me and go, oh Jesus, who's that young one or whatever, or they could go,
Of course,
oh
you'll
they
always
should be.
get that though.
And
Always.
that's the thing, you're always gonna get it. So I'm just kind of like, look, if 10 people don't like me and one person does, I'll just go to that one person. I'm not gonna go anywhere near the 10 people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true. No, yeah. No, and I love that, Lauren, and that's something don't ever change, because I feel like a lot of girls will. I'm saying girls all the time. I don't mean to exclude the men, but I'm just talking as in a perspective that I know.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they will look and kind of, and even men, they'll look at these bodybuilders or these people that are in serious nick, and that's fair play to them. But it's just kind of like, I don't like the comparing of like your body or your
Yeah.
like the way you live or who you are. Like I hate that, and it's just something that I thought would be very relevant, especially in this episode, to bring up, because you would be someone that I'd be like, do you know what, fair play to her, because she's doing it and she's embracing everything about herself, whether she likes it or not. And which is,
Yeah.
nobody understands what goes on behind that picture that someone takes of themselves and posts of themselves. It's just
Yeah.
like, don't comment anything negative, don't have anything bad to say, just move on. And that's what today, I suppose, it's not just, I'm not just obviously the whole body things, it's more so your mind. And obviously people do need to be a little bit nicer to each other, and that's just always a given. But it's just, today is a nice insight into a real story, which is your story, and how you've been so open. So I want to thank you for being so open, and I want to thank you for your story, because it's not easy to sit here and, yeah, obviously this is going to be broadcasted out to people, and there maybe is the fair judgment or not the fair. And it's something that I always make sure that, even like myself and Daniel and Kelly, we make sure that before someone comes on as an episode, that there's things that they're comfortable to talk about, because you never want to put you in a position where you're not. So as I said, you've been an open book, so thank you so much.
No problem.
And I'm thankful that you are on this episode, and I've really enjoyed speaking to you. And if you have any questions to ask her, or if she's inspired you in some sort of way today, let her know, because it is nice to hear the positive side of things rather than people always commenting negative stuff on your social media platforms. So thanks for joining us today on our TU Dublin Talk. Thanks to Lauren Duffy for joining us on episode number 9 of TU Dublin Talks. Looking forward to the next episode. Bye now.